The change from wishing fellow Americans Merry Christmas to wishing them destroy Israel is no big deal.
No, you cannot joke about that.
Yeah, that's not funny.
Welcome back to part 2 of this series. I'm pretty baffled that I'm here doing this. Originally, I just intended to leave the first part as it was, and I would spend the rest of the holiday season working more on the Pirates film. But upon further reflection, I said, you know what? While I'm at it, why not get another part out before Christmas? I mean, it's not like I'm avoiding responsibility with a Pirates film or anything. What kind of director would ever do such a thing? Let's be honest with ourselves. Inside of such big things that are to come, if I don't do part 2 now, it'll never get done. As for the fates of parts 3 and 4, only time will tell. Today, we will be stepping out of the silent era and explore some of the early sound versions of the beloved holiday classic. Are these versions better than the silent films? Are they worse? Or are there elements to appreciate in both mediums? Let's find out together. By the 1920s, film was a very well-established medium. The Hollywood empire we know and just love today was at its height, and silent films reigned supreme for many more years to come. Until some small-scale film by a pretentious jackass called Al Jolson, who's ever heard of him? He'll amount to nothing, released a film called The Jazz Singer, and it was such a box office flop that no one remembers it, and no one will ever talk about it ever again. Except it actually did change everything.
Wait a minute, I tell you, you ain't heard nothing. Goodbye.
While The Jazz Singer was a mediocre film at best, and full of some very questionable elements.
I'm a-coming.
Yeah, yikes. If it ever changed cinema. I should rephrase this. We have a misconception today, that silent films are always watched by an audience in uncomfortable silence. The reality couldn't be more different. For starters, that annoying sound of the film projector always echoed through the room, and most theaters, even the most crappy dollar store ones, had a musical score alongside it. Sometimes more upscale theaters had full orchestras, but this was a rarity. While The Jazz Singer is usually considered the first sound movie, that isn't entirely true. The majority of the film is actually silent, with only the musical numbers being audible.
Blue sky, smiling at me, me, nothing but little blue sky. Do I see, do, bluebird singing a song, nothing but little bluebird all day long.
While this seems like nothing special, small improv from Al Jolson changed cinema forever.
You see, Mrs. Friedman, the butcher's wife, she'll be jealous of you. Oh, no, yes, she will. You see if she isn't. And I'm going to get you a nice pink dress that'll go with your brown eyes.
No,
What do you mean, no? Who is telling you? What do you mean, no?
Yes. Dialogue. Al Jolson's quirky improvs were included in the film, resulting in a conversation between two characters. Therefore, dialogue. Pretty amazingly, the industry evolved almost overnight. While there were a few holdouts, most films were fully converted to sound by the early 1930s. Watching these early sound films are always a treat. Due to sound being such an absolute pain in the ass to implement, yeah, I know how that feels, a lot of directors use sound in really unique ways. For example, in some of the Universal horror films, uncomfortable silence was used a lot, and even all these years later, this tactic is still pretty unsettling. Sometimes less is more, and these directors understood that. I love watching films like this, because you can tell every tiny sound took ages to sync up correctly. If you have a really good ear, you'll notice some sound effects that aren't included at all. For example, take this clip from All Quiet on the Western Front. Did you hear it? The harmonica cleverly distracted you from the lack of audio with the shovels. That's some pretty neat directing. While these films are really nice to watch, this style couldn't last forever. Then, in 1933, a film came along that changed everything. King Kong. Marion C. Cooper's absolute classic changed the silver screen forever. People nowadays usually consider the first blockbuster to be Jaws or Star Wars, but I firmly disagree. King Kong started most of the trends we know today. Musical scores, for example, were used before, but often sparingly. Max Steiner's iconic score was probably the first proper soundtrack for a major film. Without him, we might not have John Williams or Hans Zimmer today, though it does have some elements that aged about as well as milk.
Sita! He says, look at the golden woman.
Yeah, blondes are scarce around here.
Forward, you fireman, up here! What are you doing up here?
It still holds up all these years later. Honestly, this could probably be released today and hold up just as well as it did in 1933. Do I even need to talk about the impact this film had on people? It impacted my filmmaking career especially. My shitty Lost World remake was impacted a lot by King Kong. I might not be sitting here making this video today if it wasn't for King Kong. After this film was released, movies exploded massively. The gains that King Kong made led to some of the most iconic films in cinema coming out in the late 30s. I'm talking about the likes of Snow White, Gone with the Wind, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Stagecoach, and most importantly of all, The Wizard of Oz. Massive strides that both the jazz singer and King Kong took with sound also gave birth to new Christmas movies, such as Scrooge 1935. Nice segue, Tom! Now, you might be wondering, why in God's name did I spend nearly 5 minutes ranting about a topic that arguably has absolutely nothing to do with this movie? Well, the answer is, it's a lot more interesting and worth talking about than this movie ever will be. The 1935 version of Scrooge is perhaps the most boring and dull out of them all. There are other versions that are so great, I could talk about them for ages, and there are other versions that are so mind-bogglingly bad that I could talk about them for a decent amount of time as well. Hell, even the silent films, which sometimes ran as short as almost 5 to 10 minutes, I'm positive that I would have more to say about those versions than anything in this one. I can't really talk about this one because, Jesus Christ, it is so boring. I don't know how they did it, but they somehow made me bored watching my favorite Christmas story. Well, I still have to talk about it, so let's get this over with. Seymour Hicks, who previously played Scrooge in the 1913 silent film we looked at, plays Old Ebenezer once again. I've certainly seen worse Scrooges, but his performance isn't anything to write home about. I'll give him credit that he has improved a lot from his previous 1913 adaptation. It actually seems he's come a long way. Acting in a silent film and then converting to a sound film is no easy task, and I applaud him for his different styles of acting. While this is an adaptation, the amount of elements that are either rushed over or half-assed are unbelievable. I have never seen a lazier way of handling the Three Ghosts. To give you a sense of how cheap this production is, they don't even have a physical actor playing Jacob Marley.
Look well, Ebenezer Scrooge, for only you can see me.
What you want with me?
Much.
Yeah.
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
And even worse, they get Claude Rains to voice him. Claude Rains! Yes, the same Claude Rains from Casablanca, Lawrence of Arabia, the Invisible Man himself. And you don't show him? Not only that, but the transitions of Christmas past and present are so rushed, it's hilarious.
That they are what they are. Do not blame me.
Take me back.
And it takes a huge effort for me to not care when Tiny Tim dies. But they somehow manage to do it. For the love of God, they show his corpse in this version, and I still feel nothing. When silent films, with barely a fraction of the budget, and having the huge disadvantage of being silent, are somehow able to get the story better across than you know you're in some serious trouble. Okay, maybe I'm being too hard on this movie. What's there to like? Well, there are a few elements that are really well done. For instance, towards the end of the movie, the shots of Scrooge in the shadows of Christmas Future are very neat to look at. This so easily could have been screwed up, but it's arranged in a unique way, with both of them being inside the wall. I enjoyed it and included the montage from the book, where Christmas Present shows Scrooge the Christmases around the world. And one even takes place inside a lighthouse. Would you look at that?
Dance! Dance, Winslow! Dance!
And it includes something that I'm baffled other productions haven't tried. At the climax in the graveyard, the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come tries to grab Scrooge, presumably taking him to get his chains fixed, implying that he has already passed all hope. Instead, Scrooge grabs his bony hand and pleads that he's a changed man. Honestly, that's pretty clever. In most iterations of the scene, the Ghost of Christmas Future just awkwardly stands there. The moment is typically more reliant on the performance of the guy playing Scrooge. I like the intensity of this more. It fits a lot better, implying that the ghost of Christmas yet to come wasn't trying to scare Scrooge, but actually going to take him is a lot more unsettling. Besides these few good moments, there's not much you'll get out of this version. Unless you're like me and you love the story so much that you want to see every version, you should skip this one. Overall, a 5 out of 10. Auf der einen 1938. The 2019 before 2020, if you will. Just that next year, some crazy German, Austrian artist would start his invasion of Poland, with Papa Stalin coming from the other side.
Meine Arbeit für richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin.
Boy, and you thought World War I was bad. Guys, I'm so lonely, please. Noteworthy of this year was an adaptation of A Christmas Carol from good old MGM. Oh, don't act like you don't know them. It's the company of that iconic lion logo, making such classics as Ben-Hur, Dr. Zhivago, and the absolute magnum opus, Zookeeper. In 1938, MGM released their own adaptation of A Christmas Carol, around the same time as some other absolute classics. Does this one hold up well? Kind of? At least it's better than the 1935 version. This time, Reginald Owen plays Scrooge. That name probably doesn't ring any bells, but you've definitely seen him before. He's best known for his role as Admiral Boom in Mary Poppins.
We being attacked by Hottentots!
Aye, aye, sir.
Cheesy devils! Give them what for! Empty those shot knuckles!
Aye, aye, sir.
Owen is fine, I guess. I've seen much better, and I've seen a lot worse. Personally, I don't think he's mean enough. He just comes off as more annoying. He reminds me a lot of those obnoxious customers that I used to bust tables for at my first job.
I won't go with you. I gotta stay. I tell you. Don't be a fool, man. You don't like Christmas. But I do. I do like Christmas. I love Christmas.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't buy this guy as the cold-hearted monster that he's supposed to portray. He's just way too nice. It's like casting Tom Hanks as a movie villain. Some people just aren't meant for certain roles. I was really shocked about how short this version was. It felt like a summary at times. It glosses over really important elements. Most of the time, it's the darker themes that it skips. Now, I'm not saying that every Christmas Carol adaptation has to be a complete downer, but seeing some of the more darker aspects makes us appreciate the ending more, and it makes us accept Scrooge's transformation at the end even more. By skipping over some of these elements, the film comes off as unintentionally comedic at times. Even the Ghost of Christmas Future, one of the most haunting figures Dickens ever described, comes off as really awkward.
You are the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
That is probably one of the most uninspiring entrances I have ever seen. I've seen stage productions that are able to make his appearance a lot more effective than this film ever could. This film is just way too upbeat in tone. It skips over so many crucial elements that make the story special. At least the film has a personality of its own, I guess, and it wasn't a complete pain to get through like the 1935 version was. I could think of worse iterations to show people, but I'll more than likely never watch this one again. Overall, I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10. '1951 saw the release of Scrooge, starring Alistair Sim. This one is stretching it a bit. I mean, this is far from an early sound version. Hell, even the ones we just looked at before can't really be considered early sound. But this version is just so great that I didn't want to leave it to part 3. So let's look at this together. 1951's Scrooge is perhaps the first film adaptation to get the story right. Alistair Sim takes on the role of Ebenezer, and he's probably one of the best to portray him. While you can personally take George C. Scott for my money, Sim plays Scrooge like a fast-talking businessman. So many other versions have Scrooge act like practically a cartoon character, which is a shame, because he can't really be taken seriously that way. Thankfully, not only does Sim portray him more accurately to the book, but he owns this role. He's manipulative, a fast talker, and so mean-spirited that he's probably the type of person that would invent the two-act system on YouTube. I mean, just look at that stare. It says it all. Something I adore about this version is that it isn't afraid to tackle some of the more darker elements. One of my favorite scenes in this is when Scrooge and Marley look out the window to see the tormented spirits.
What has passed between us? why do they lament?
They seek to interfere for good in human matters and have lost their power forever.
This passage from the book always got me. It still makes me incredibly uncomfortable anytime I read it. Seeing that many people after death, having the same fate as Marley, desperately trying to give out money to the poor woman, is really disturbing. Even creepier is that the book mentions Scrooge recognizes several of them. Jesus, that's messed up. It's a shame other versions never include this scene. It's probably the most unsettling aspect Dickens has in the book. While the effect is really cheesy in 2020, they definitely still get the point across. Though the scene is ruined for me now, because I recently found out the actor that plays Bob Cratchit is one of the spirits. Couldn't they have hidden him in the background if they were really short on extras? Another really strong element is how they explore Scrooge's past, more in depth than Dickens ever did. This is some really fantastic stuff. Having Scrooge actually buy out Fezziwig, his sister's death, and him not even wanting to visit Marley on his deathbed are great. I'm sure Charles Dickens would have been really proud of the film production. Unfortunately, the segments of Christmas Present and Future aren't nearly as effective as Christmas Past. They feel a bit rushed. I'm sure if the film was just 10 minutes longer, I'd rank it a bit higher. As it is though, this is a damn fine adaptation, and one I would strongly recommend to people. I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. Well, that's it for this episode. This will be the last video I post this year. Looking back, we had no idea of the storm that was coming at the beginning of this year. When the virus hit, I had no idea what to do with myself. Sure, I occupied myself with my Olusty film, but I became down when I couldn't have the experience that so many other high school seniors got to have, and having my first semester of college be entirely online. But this channel is always something I can come back to. Your support means the world to me. I'm glad my work is making so many people happy, and I intend to enter 2021 strong, hopefully getting closer to the release of my most ambitious project to date. Thank you all for sticking with me, and I can't wait to make more videos for you guys in 2021. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, wherever you may be.